Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. We are diving into a really fascinating historical puzzle today, looking at the Swiss Sonderfall, which translates to the special case. We're going to unpack exactly how modern Switzerland came to be, because historically speaking, it's a bit of an anomaly.
Think about this central puzzle for a second. You have a landlocked territory, right? It's completely bordered by massive warring empires. It has literally zero natural resources to mine, and the people living there speak four completely different languages. By every conventional rule of nation building, this country just shouldn't exist. So how did it defy the odds?
Well, to figure that out, here is our roadmap for today. We're going to cover 1. The Swiss anomaly, 2. Forging the Confederation, 3. The crucible of neutrality, 4. Engineering prosperity, 5. The multilingual Mosaic, and finally, 6. Confronting modern challenges.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the Swiss anomaly, and its defiance of the nation-state model.
Now, back during the Enlightenment, the European rulebook for building a successful state basically demanded geographical and cultural homogeneity. You needed one shared language, one culture, and a really strong central government. Well, Switzerland completely ignored that memo. It was this chaotic, decentralized mix of isolated mountain valleys and fiercely independent city-states. To outside observers, it looked like a total logistical nightmare. But at the same time, this pluralism offered a pretty seductive utopian vision, a place where freedom and local order could somehow coexist without forcing everyone to be exactly the same.
So how did they actually pull that off? That brings us to Section 2, Forging the Confederation, moving from forest cantons to a federal state.
You have to realize, this unity wasn't some overnight success story. It's a slow burn. It started way back in 1291 with a really basic mutual defense treaty between a few forest regions, the First Eternal Alliance. From there, you have centuries of territorial expansion that finally capped off around 1515. Then, flash forward to 1798, and Napoleon actually forces a brief centralized government on them called the Helvetic Republic. But the true definitive structural shakeup, the one that actually stuck, arrived with the formalization of the modern state in 1848.
That 1848 Constitution was literally a masterstroke of political compromise. It was drafted by a remarkably small council of just 35 members, and when it was passed by popular referendum, it finally did the impossible. It balanced the fierce, stubborn independence of the local cantons with a necessary unified federal umbrella. By setting up a federal executive, a legislative branch, and an independent judiciary, they essentially created the blueprint for the Switzerland we know today.
Moving into the 20th century, we hit Section 3, the crucible of neutrality, examining survival and its complications.
For a long time, the story of Swiss neutrality during the World Wars was viewed through this very idyllic lens. It was seen as this pristine oasis of peace, brilliantly protected by an unsurpassable army, emerging from the chaos physically untouched and incredibly prosperous. But, as with all history, there's a much more complex reality underneath. In the late 1990s, an investigation by the IC Commission really forced a difficult national reckoning. They uncovered intense controversies over dormant Holocaust bank accounts and revealed Switzerland's deep, pragmatic entanglements in the global wartime economy. It sparked a profound identity crisis regarding just how pure that Sonderfall myth really was.
Just to put a concrete number on the financial fallout of that post-war era, $399 million. In the immediate aftermath of the war, as international pressure mounted to return cash deposits to Holocaust victims and their rightful owners, the assets held in blacklistable Swiss firms plummeted by exactly this staggering amount. It's a really stark numeric reflection of Switzerland's highly controversial yet deeply stabilizing role in global finance at the time.
Okay, let's pivot a bit to Section 4, Engineering Prosperity, Building Wealth Without Resources. Because honestly, how do you get so insanely rich when your land gives you zero raw materials to export? Well, you methodically engineer a high-value service economy. No gold mines? No problem. The banking sector stepped up to offer a safe haven during endless European wars. Then, the insurance industry grew organically to manage the financial risks of those exact same conflicts. They also practically invented mass mountain tourism back in the 1860s, brilliantly turning their impassable, rugged geography into a luxury commodity. And when it came to manufacturing, they focused strictly on high-precision, high-value goods, think watches and pharmaceuticals, to completely offset the massive cost of importing every single raw material.
But what's truly amazing is that despite all this hyper-industrialization, there is a very strict environmental counterbalance at play. A full 30% of the entire country is legally preserved as forested area. The Swiss realized pretty early on that their stunning natural environment wasn't just a gimmick for tourism, but the absolute core of their national identity, safeguarding immense biodiversity against the sprawl of modern development.
Next up is Section 5, the multilingual mosaic. 4 languages, 1 state.
There's a huge misconception out there that Switzerland is just this nation of fluid polyglots where everyone seamlessly switches between 4 languages. That's not really how it works. They actually operate on something called the territoriality principle. Basically, the country is carved up into distinct geographical zones where one language strictly dominates. If you live in Geneva, you speak French. In Zurich, it's German. It's a highly structured system designed to protect linguistic borders, ensuring that every cultural group feels completely secure and unthreatened in its own designated territory.
And the timing of how these languages were recognized is pretty fascinating too. While German, French, and Italian were baked right into the state's identity from the 1848 Constitution, the whole quadrilingual mosaic wasn't actually finished until much later. In 1938, Romansh, which is this ancient Alpine language spoken by a tiny minority, was officially elevated to national language status. This was largely a defensive cultural move to unite the country against the looming threat of homogenization from the authoritarian regimes popping up next door.
Which brings us to our final section, Section 6, Confronting Modern Challenges, Immigration, Aging, and Identity.
Right now, the highly decentralized Swiss system is under some unprecedented demographic stress. By the year 2030, they are staring down a massive 42% projected increase in dependent individuals who are going to require long-term daily care. And because healthcare there is divided up into 26 slightly different cantonal systems, trying to coordinate a sustainable, unified response to this rapidly aging population is, quite frankly, a logistical nightmare.
But it's not just healthcare keeping policymakers up at night. The country is navigating a whole compounding wave of modern pressures. They're seeing unprecedented immigration from culturally distant countries, which is sparking some really intense debates about integration and segregation in major cities. Add to that their constantly evolving, sometimes rocky relationship with international bodies like the UN and the EU. They are essentially being forced to ask if their highly structured traditional society can easily adapt to a borderless, globalized world. And simmering beneath all these modern pressures is that ongoing historical reckoning we touched on earlier. There's a really powerful observation from the source material that hits the nail on the head here. It notes that when a nation builds its identity on a highly selective idealized memory, the eventual surfacing of hidden truths can really fracture that identity. History is rarely just forgotten. Traumatic memories and unfulfilled expectations merely wait in the shadows until a society is finally ready to reconcile them.
So, bringing it all together, can the Sonderfall, this incredible, impossible Swiss special case, actually survive the extreme complexities of the 21st century? Can a state built on strict neutrality, highly localized power, and isolated cultural zones hold its own in a hyper-connected, volatile modern world? The future of the Swiss anomaly relies entirely on whether their legendary capacity for compromise is as strong today as it was in 1848. Will they adapt, or will the system finally break? It's a fascinating question, and I hope this explainer leaves you eager to dig even deeper into it. Thanks for joining me, and keep exploring.